Everyone loves a good espionage story, so we thought we would invite Madoc Roberts on the show. He is co-author of Snow, The Double Life of a World War II Spy, the story of Arthur Owens, a double agent for the Mi5. Mr. Roberts, thanks very much for joining us, and you join us via Skype from Cardiff, Wales. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So your new book is about the first double agent during the Second World War. Who was Arthur Owens?
Arthur Owens was an ordinary man. He was an inventor. He moved his family to Canada from Wales in the early 1920s, where he set about inventing an improvement to batteries, which he hoped was going to make his fortune. Whilst he was there, he lived in Golden, in British Columbia, where they had a daughter called Patricia, and he also then moved the family to Ontario, where he had his offices in Yonge Street in Toronto. And that's where he invented these batteries. And then to sell them, he moved back to Europe, brought the family back to Europe, and went over to Northern Europe, where he tried to sell them to various navies in the run-up to the war. It was 1935, around then. And one day he walked into the German embassy in Belgium, and walked in as an inventor and came out as the German master spy in Britain.
There was Yes?
Sorry?
Okay, I was going to say there was always a question of his true allegiance during the war, but your book says he was a war hero. How did he help the British during the Second World War?
Well, he may have walked into the embassy in Belgium and come out as a German spy, but what the Germans didn't know is that he'd already been working for British intelligence. So when he came back to Britain, Mi5 were onto him, and they decided that the best way to use him was to plant fake information with the Germans. The Germans wanted information in the build-up to war, and so Arthur was sent a radio by the Germans, and he would send messages back to the Germans, and the British could obviously manipulate these messages. And perhaps more importantly, the messages that Arthur Owens sent were encoded on a German Enigma machine, which was using a code that was meant to be unbreakable. But because the British had already written the signals that Arthur was sending, they knew what they said, so it helped them greatly. And the first British breakthroughs in the Enigma code were actually used Arthur Owens signals. So in that sense, that was his first major contribution. Although of course he knew nothing about it because he wasn't allowed to see those messages. But also his pattern, the way that they used Arthur Owens, the Mi5 could use to run all the other German agents, because Germany trusted Arthur so much. All the agents that they sent to Britain were told to contact him. His code name, as far as the Germans were concerned, was Johnny O'Brien, but the British knew him as Snow. And so what he did as Snow was to hand all these German spies over to Mi5, who told them they could either become double agents like him, or they could be executed.
Now, there has been a book in the past about Arthur Owens. What makes this story new, and why release it now?
Most of the books that mention Arthur Owens were written around the 70s when information started coming out. But that information was the German information. A lot of them used the German information, which of course was full of fake information sent by Mi5. What I've done is I've gone back to the National Archives in Kew in London, gone through all the documents and found the true story of Arthur Owens. And at the same time as I was doing that, I traced his family. And I've got a lot of the information about him and his later years from the family themselves. After the war, he vanished. He thought that somebody might catch up with him because of all the double crossing he'd done. So he changed his name and moved to Ireland. And it took me 6 years. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I thought this would be a really good story. And I'm still hoping to make a documentary one day. So I traced the family to Ireland, and at the same time, I found his son still living in Ireland, and I found a grandson still living in Hollywood, because what I discovered was that his daughter had become a famous film actress.
Oh.
His daughter was Patricia Owens, who was born in Golden, in British Columbia. I mean, when I was searching for the family, I found Patricia Owens, but I thought, no, that can't have anything to do with them. That'd be far too much of a coincidence. But when I spoke to his son, Graham, living in Ireland, who the family name had become Graham White, Graham told me that as a young man, he was taken to the pictures, and his mother told him, that lady on the screen is your sister. And he was watching The Fly, the Vincent Price Al Hedison movie from the late 1950s, and she was the main character in it. And she went on to appear in films alongside people like Marlon Brando. She was in Sayonara, that won a few Oscars. And she also appeared in Island in the Sun with James Mason in about 30 films and all. So she had a really good career. But all the time she knew that her career could come to an end, because if people found out that her father had been a German spy, then that could have been really bad for her career. What they wouldn't have known at the time was that he was actually a double agent, because that information didn't come out till later.
It's a fascinating story. Madoc Roberts, co-author of Snow, The Double Life of a World War II Spy. We thank you very much for your time and good luck with the book.
Thanks for having me.